Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So, in the last class, we discussed about the functional modeling. We have one more modeling left, that is the behavioral modeling. But today, I'm going to start a new topic, that is the structure analysis. Okay, so let me share the slide first. Okay. So, what is the structural analysis? Basically, it's a development method that allows the analyst to understand the system and its activities in a logical way. So, I told you in the beginning of the classes, in the earlier classes, I told you, right, the clients who run the system, they have no idea like about the technical aspect. So, for that purpose, the analysts, how they understand the system, they need to use certain methods, how they will gather the information from the user. For that purpose, they go for the initial designing information gathering processes, or they develop a prototype. So that is why understanding the requirement in a logical manner is known as the structured analysis. So basically, it's a systematic approach which uses graphical tools that analyze and refine the objectives of an existing system and develop a new system specification which can be easily understandable by user. Now what happens, the user, based on their understanding, the analyst, based on the understanding of the user, they create a diagram. Such kind of some tools are developed. Okay, tools mean, we mean the diagrams only. It may be any diagram like the DFD we studied in the last class. Okay, so any DFD or any other tool, so we other the tools we'll be studying today, and then they present it to the user, and if they're okay, then they proceed further with the coding and other things. Okay, once the information is gathered, then the rest of the process for the STLC is followed. So what are the attributes present in structured analysis? So it's a graphic which specifies the presentation of application, how it will look like, all the graphics kind of things. Then it divides the processes so that it gives a clear picture of system flow. We have in the context level diagram in DFD, we have seen the entire process, the entire project is shown as a single process. Later in the first level, we have broken down it, right? We have broken down the processes. Suppose we studied for like student management system. So entire thing was in the context level was single process. Later in the first model, first level DFD diagram, we have like divided it into various processes. Why do have you done that? So to get a proper idea, what are the features will be there, what are the functionalities will be uh, there present in the system. So to have a clear picture of the system. So it is logical rather than physical. Okay, the elements of system do not depend on the vendor or hardware. So obviously the diagrams you are doing, it will be logical, but because to get an understanding of the implementation point of view, we draw the diagram. Okay, but we do not like physically implement these things, but to get a understand, just to get a understanding of the thing. That is why it is called the logical, and it is an approach that works from high level overviews to low level details. So all the things like from high level features to low level features, everything is mentioned in the diagram. Now let's see some structured analysis tools. So these are the structured analysis tools, out of which you have already studied the DFD diagram. Okay, you have one of them, all you people are aware of it. I have just discussed in the last two classes. And others are data dictionary, decision trees is there, decision tables is there, structured English, and pseudocode. Now pseudocode is also one thing, I think you people are aware of it. I think before going for any C programming, you people have written the algorithm or the pseudocode for it. Like in the pseudocode, I'll discuss later. Now I won't tell you, but just an overview I just gave. So these are the things. So first, let's move to the data flow diagram. So this is the in a diagrammatical view, like we told you, right? I told you that this is the information gathering tool to understand the have the basic understanding of the requirements. We go for the this kind of diagrams. Okay, so structured analysis. So this involves all the like data flow diagram, decision tree, decision table, structured. This is structured query or structured English, whatever we'll just see today. And then last one is a pseudocode. So out of which this data flow diagram, or also known as the bubble chart, also you know why it is known as a bubble chart, because we represent the processes as a circle, right? So that is why it may be called as, if we are using, because we saw there are two conventions used, I think Jordan and I think Larry and Gordon. So if you follow the Jordan one, it is known as a bubble chart because we show the process as a circle. Otherwise it comes looks like a rectangle, something, that process. So that is why in data flow we know the features is there, but how the data flow takes from process to process, we understand from the data flow diagram. So I'll not make you understand today because I have already covered this part. Okay. So here, this part I have not covered. So in this DFD basically consists of two types of DFDs. One is the logical DFD and one is the physical DFD. So what is the difference between this logical DFD and physical DFD? So basically, physical DFD is implementation dependent. It shows which functions are performed, and logical DFDs are implementation independent. So you can include any kind of feature, so it's not required that it will whatever you have drawn needs to be implemented too. So it focuses on the flow of the data between the processes. So we draw the logical DFD only to get an understanding of the processes, how data is flowing between processes, what are the processes will be involved. Okay, the last day whatever diagram we saw about was about the logical DFD only. Okay, so some other processes, but we have just had an idea how the information is flowing from different processes. Okay, now physical DFD, it will provide the details of all the lower level like hardware, what kind of hardware it will involve, software it will be used, files, and people also, how many people it will be in, who are the people who will involve. But in logical DFD, it will explain the events of systems and data required by each event. You can think of the processes, what are the processes are there, and how like information will flow. So only that thing will be explained. Okay, next is in physical DFD, it depicts how the current system operates and how a system will be like implemented. So it will also show like the current, it will give a background of the current system and how it needs to be implemented. The everything needs to be mentioned here. But in physical DFD, it only shows the logic and not how the system will be implemented. Just in the like DFD diagram we have seen the logical DFD, we knew what are the features, what are the functionalities of the system, but we did not knew like how we will implement it. We were least concerned with it, like not least actually, we were not concerned, we not only not at all concerned with it, right? So these were the types of DFDs: logical DFD and physical DFD. Now moving next to the data dictionary, it is again one of the information gathering tool. So using this data dictionary, we can collect the information from the client. So what is a data dictionary? So data dictionary is basically a structured repository of data elements in the system. So it's a structured mean it will keep in a structured way. So you can think of a database, okay, repository, right? Structured repository of data elements. Okay, then it stores the description of all the DFD data elements. So whatever DFD you have created, like whatever the things involved in the DFD elements, whether it's the data store or the processes or the data flows, so it will like contain the this structure. Sorry, data dictionary will contain all this information about the data stores, then the data contained in the DFD, then definition. Okay, Prastuti, you have a question. Yes, Prastuti. Right.
No, ma'am.
Yes, Prastuti. Any question?
No, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Actually, you raised a hand, so
No,
I
ma'am.
thought. Okay. See, any point you don't understand, anyone can just stop me. Okay. So basically, this data dictionary, like you can think of a database which stores all the like entities of the DFDs. Like we had, I told you, right, how information is flowed, the information flow methods, then the data store information, then data of the DFD are stored here. So what it does, it basically improves the communication between the analyst and the user. Okay, so it plays an important role in building a database. So it is helpful in building a database. So like most these database management systems have a data dictionary as a standard feature. Now let us have a look at this. So you can see how it is stored. It is basically a table in database, right? So all the descriptions like the serial number, data name, description, number of characters are stored in this data dictionary. Okay, so you can think it's looking like a table which contains, see, this is a data name ISBN. So the description is, it is a like it's a ISBN number. So how many characters it can contain? 10 number of characters. So all these things are known as the data dictionaries. Okay. Moving next, we have moved to the decision tree. So decision tree is basically when we have a bit complex relationship. So we can go like define the decision tree, but it like and avoid the problem in communication. So it like decision like we have the data dictionary where we cannot take the complex relationship into action, but we have little bit of complex relationship. We should go for this decision tree. So basically a decision tree, you know, it's a look like a tree like structure. So it will be looking like a tree. Like we have a hierarchical model. We studied about the hierarchical data model, how we had a tree. So similarly here also it will be, I'll show you the diagram. So basically a decision tree is a diagram that shows alternative action. So decision. So when you have a decision, that means it will have a condition. So and condition, so it either it will be yes or it will be no. Okay, so when you process a decision, when you have a flowchart also, you represent that decision using which symbol? Using the, yes, in your flowchart, you know the flowchart, right? You represent decision which using which symbol in flowchart? Anyone remember? Yes, students? Okay, let me answer. See, whenever we go for the flowchart, we represent a like decision using the diamond symbol, right? Over then when we have that diamond symbol, either like we have one action is yes and one action is no. Okay, and similarly in decision tree also it depicts the same thing. So here it depicts which conditions to consider first, second, and so on. So suppose I'll give you one example also. Like here in decision tree, we need to like prioritize the decisions, which decisions need to be taken first. Okay. So here is written, decision tree depicts the relationship of each condition and their permissible action. So what are the like action permissible for that decision, whether it is true or false? So that is that here a like square node indicates an action, and just wait, someone is waiting. Here a square node indicates an action and a circle indicates a condition. So it forces analysts to consider the sequence of decisions and identifies the actual decision that must be made. Okay. Okay. So you can see the you can see the diagram for this decision tree. You know, I told you just a square like this circles means the condition and the square node means the action. Okay. So this is just a basic diagram of it. Okay, this decision tree actually, it's a concept of, it's a basically an algorithm in AI also, that is artificial intelligence or machine learning, whatever. These are the like lots of formulas are calculated. We have the entropy function. So we'll not go into that depth. But for you people, you remember this is like two conditions for like if condition this, we have two actions, 2 and 6. Okay. After this action, we can go for this conditions also. This action involves some conditions. Okay, this condition 3, condition 4. So we have this tree. So this diagram, if you check properly, it looks like a tree. So that is why it is called the decision tree. Now there are some disadvantages. So the major, basically the limitation of the decision tree is that it lacks information in its format to describe what are the combinations. So there in some decisions there may be more like you may not be the answer, the action may not be yes or no or true or false. It's some other actions, maybe is there, right? You are not sure of some decision in that like for some, therefore some condition you are not sure of that answer. It may not be true, it may not be false for you. So in that case it does not take into consideration. That type of testing is not taken into consideration. Also, it is a single representation of the relationship between the condition and action. So, here is also an example. See, you have list condition C1, we have advance payment mode. Okay, so advance payment mode, either it's like yes, give 5% discount, no, it's C2. Then in C2, what are the conditions? Purchase amount greater than 10,000. So you can say yes, it is, if it is yes, then go to condition C3, otherwise no, no discount. Otherwise regular customer, C3 is regular customer. Then if it is yes, give 5% discount, if no, then 10% discount. So this kind of thing is known as the decision tree. Okay, where we have the condition and action. So these are the conditions C1, C2, C3, and these are the actions. Okay. And we have only these two entities only. Either we have yes or either we have no. But in some cases, we not be like sure of like what it be, like it may be maybe answer may be there, but it's not possible here. Okay. Next we have decision tables. Now after decision trees comes a decision table. So now what are the decision table? What is the decision table? So it's just easy only. We'll just check. So a decision table is basically a method of describing the complex logical relationship in a precise manner which is easily understandable. So any relationship which is complex, you can easily understand it by going through the decision table. It is useful in situation where the resulting action depend on the occurrence of one or several combination of independent actions, conditions. Okay. So basically it will show a matrix containing rows and columns. So decision table will consist of rows and columns for defining a problem and action. So we'll just check after a few minutes, okay, how the decision table looks like. Next, for a decision table, we have this course like these conditions are the condition snap, action snap, condition entry, and action entry. We'll understand this thing, but I'll just inform you and then I'll show you in the diagram also. So what is a condition snap? It is basically let me show you a decision tree first, then I'll go for it. So this is how a decision tree looks like. Okay. So here you see the conditions, right? These are the conditions snap. This is the action snap. Again, so just for now, you check the condition snap and the action snap. Now just move back and you see what is the condition snap. It is the upper left quadrant which lists all the conditions to be checked. Okay. So what does it contain? It will contain all the condition that needs to be checked. Okay. Next is the actions. Next, we just go back. We have the action snap. It is basically, it's a lower left quadrant which outlines all the action to be carried out to meet such conditions. So if you have a condition, so what are the actions you need to take are like described in the action snap. Okay. So you can think of it as a 4 quadrant. Okay. This is the condition snap. This is the action. This is the condition entry, and this is the action entry. Okay. 4 quadrant. Next is the condition entry. So it is the upper right quadrant which provides answer to this question asked in condition snap step quadrant. So just check. So basically these are some rules are there in decision trees. There are some rules, and suppose we have these conditions like advance payment made. Okay. So rule number 1, so there are certain rules are there where yes, okay, and others are no, no, no. Okay, so these are all the conditions whether it's met or not. Okay, let's go back again. And based on the like condition entry, we'll get the action entry. So it is a lower right quadrant which indicates the appropriate action resulting from the answers to the condition in the condition entry quadrant. Now we have the entries in decision tables are given by decision rules. Okay, according to some decision rules, we can go for the entries. So which will define the relationship between the combinations and conditional course of action. So in here, if it means y, that means the existence, the condition exists. Okay, if it is n is mentioned here, that means the condition does not hold. Okay, similarly, if you can represent a blank by this symbol, this small underline symbol, not underlined, yeah, something. And or if you x is mentioned or a tick is mentioned, that means uh, against action states to be carried out. So that you can think of a don't care condition. So not a problem. So here you can see this is the table made for the like earlier decision tree. Just we have seen just before in the decision tree for the payment made or not. So you find this is the decision table. Okay, so advance payment made, yes, and this is no. Again, purchase amount equal to or like rupees 10,000. It is like yes, and no. And regular customer, yes, no. So what are the action? Like give 5% discounts XS and it is blank. Okay, and give no discount, so it is excess and it is blank. So what does this means? So X means against action state it is to be carried out, and you can just ignore the blank states. So we can ignore this blank state, but here action needs to be taken. So it has made so what does this mean? That it has made this rule according to rule 1 we can give 5% discount. Okay, and again since there are two y's are there, again here also we can give 5% discount because purchase amount is equal to 10,000 and he is a regular customer. So we can give them 5% discount. For them it is blank because two no's are here and only one y. So that is why we will not give them 5% discount. And here also two no's are here. So we cannot give them 5% discount. For this case, give no discount, this one will be applicable obviously because advance paper not made regular customer, so this will be here no discount, give no discount, right? So this is what a condition entry and action entry means. So see, we have to check the number based on the condition. These are the conditions, so there can be more number of conditions. So how do we find the action entry? So suppose here we should count the number of y's. If the number of y's is greater than number of x, so number of n, then we can write we can give the value that is correct. Okay, suppose here only one y is there, so we can give only 5% discount. But here two y's are there, so here also we can give 5% discount. But here can we give? No, because only one y is there. So that is why a decision table works. Any confusion in the decision table? See, this decision table and this diagram meaning is the same thing. But here, like it is showing as a tree diagram, and here it is looking like normally a row matrix table, right? It looks like a matrix. Any confusion till this point? Decision table. This is you can think like the decision table is a 4 quadrant. First, in the left quadrant, it will consist of the conditions. Okay, what are the conditions are there? Okay, so just go back to this diagram. So what are the conditions? Advance payment made, purchase amount greater than or equal to. So in that case, we have taken only 10,000 only. Purchase amount greater than equal to 10,000 or regular customer. Okay, these are the conditions. Let's go back. These are the conditions. So what are the actions need to be taken based on these conditions? That whether to give them 5% discount or no discount. Okay, so we mentioned in the action snap. Okay. Later we have some rules. So we have seen in the diagrams we have rule where yes or no is there. So based on that we have put it, and then we try to find out whether we should give them discount or not. So this is the decision table. Anyone not clear, or no one is clear? Akshaydeep, are you clear? Decision table.
Not clear.
Which part?
No appointment.
Uh-huh.
Whole party.
I'm not getting you.
Whole party.
Okay, whole part is not
Not
clear.
clear, Papali ma'am.
Which one? This decision table?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm explaining it again. See, in decision table, you think it as a matrix. Okay, so it is consists of 4 quadrants. Okay, 4 quadrants. Okay, whenever you have a graph, also we have 4 quadrants, right? First, second, third, fourth. Okay, so in decision table, what happened? This first quadrant, you think this is the condition snap. So here you have just written these words. Just this is in condition stub. Okay, so okay, Hirok is waiting. Just wait. I'm explaining it again. Yes. So this is the condition stub. That means it will mention what are the conditions we are checking. So we are drawing according to the last decision tree. Okay, so what were the conditions involved? So whether advance payment made, purchase amount greater than equal to 10,000 or regular customer. So these were the condition, and based on this one we have some action stub. So what were the action stub? Give them 5% discount or no discount. So this condition stub and action stub. Are you clear now this point? These two parts. What are the conditions? Condition
Yes, ma'am.
part is okay. Now, based on this, we will decide, like we have some rules, right? In the decision tree, we had some rules. Yes or no. Okay. So see. Now see, what was the condition 1? It is advance payment made. So rule 1, yes. So we will put in the rule 1, yes. But what about the rule 2? Yeah, rule 2 does not come here, right? It is because from you, if you check the diagram, it's decision tree diagram. If we move to C2, when do we move to C2? Only when it is no. Yes, Sagar, you have a question. Sagar, you have a question. You raised your hand.
No, ma'am, no.
Okay, okay. Okay. So here, when it is C1, we directly give 5% discount. So that is why. But if it is like if C1 is no, then we move to C2. So in that case, obviously C2, C3 will be no only. So that is why we have represented it as N and N. Now in C2, when we go back to C2, okay, that is the purchase amount greater than 10,000. If the purchase amount is greater than 10,000, then it will move to C3. It is Y, right? So in the rule 2 part, we will give this one as Y, and it is no for all other cases. So just check. So that is why, see, for this one it will be ignored, right? Because we are now not checking the condition 1 anymore. Okay, but here we are checking, because when it is C2 is yes, then only it moves to C3. Okay, so that is why it is Y. Okay, if it is C2, then only we can move, and then only we can give 5% discount. And if it's C3, if it is N, when it is C2 is N, give no discount. So that is why we are putting here N. Similarly, for C3 also we can check. C3, it's Y and N. Okay. So C3 also, it's there is no rule 4, I guess. Rule 4 is there. No, there is no rule 4. Okay, there is an additional they have mentioned. There is no, so just don't think about this one, because there is no rule 4. We have till rule 3 only. So they have just mistaken one thing. It should be here. This Y should be here. Like sorry, they should it's like Y and N. Okay. Later, we need to find, this was the conditions entry. Conditions entry you get by checking the number of y and number of n in the decision tree. The decision, when you need to draw this decision table, this kind of decision table, like probably the decision tree will be given to you, and from that table you need to draw this diagram. Just wait. Now, you, based on this condition entry, you need to find the action entry. So there was this actions, right? Give 5% discount or no discount. So you see only one y is there. So obviously we can give them 5% discount. Okay, here two y's are there. Number of y's is greater than n. So obviously we can give them 5% discount. And here two n's are there, so we cannot give them any discount. So here we are checking it, we are marking it here, and here also no discount, so we are marking it here. Okay, so we need to count the number. Now is like someone not clear? I'll be sharing the slide. Please go through it once. I hope like it will be more clear than once you go through it. See, the condition entry, by going through the decision tree, you can just do it yourself. Okay, but wherever it is y, just put y, where it's n, put n. Okay, only this part you need to understand how to find the actions by counting the number of y's and n's. Okay. Next is the structured English. So one more method is the structured English. So basically, it's you can think of a structured programming language which gives like, it will be gives more understandable and precise description of the process. So you can think of an algorithm also. Before, like when you write the algorithm, how do you write it in C programming? First, going from the first, like before starting the program, we first write the algorithm, right? The way we write it is known as the like structured English. Like it is like, it does not have any syntax. You may write it some other way, I may write it some other way. So this kind of things are known as structured English. So but we have to use some loops. Okay, so it's best used when sequence and loops in a program must be considered and the problems need sequence or action. So let us just have a look at the structured English part. So this is how the decision tree, whatever we have drawn just seen. So this is how the structured English looks. Okay, so see, if customer pays advance, then give 5% discount, else then it will, what it does, it enters into the next loop. If else if purchase amount is greater than equal to 10,000, then if the customer if purchase amount is greater than equal to 10,000, then we need to check two things, right? If the customer is a regular customer, then give 5% discount, else no discount. Then you end this loop, right? If it's not a regular, you end this loop, and then else no discount. This is when the purchase amount is greater than 10,000. You are checking whether it's a regular customer or not. If he is a regular customer, then you give them 5% discount, otherwise no discount. And later you close on this if also, you close this if, and the last one is this if. That's it. That is what a structured English is. Anyone not clear with the structured English? We have just checked the condition of the decision tree what we have, just same thing. See, first if we'll check whether this condition is true. If it is true, we'll directly give 5% discount. If not, then we'll need to check another condition, that the purchase amount is greater than 10,000. If the purchase amount is greater, that means this is the one condition, right? Then we need to check another condition, like if the customer is a regular customer. If yes, then give them 5% discount, else no discount. So end if, else no discount. Okay, and then end if, end if. So basically we are using this looping structure, else if statement on the structured English. Okay, so it does not have, we should always, when we start a structured English, we should remember that when we start a loop, we should end that loop. That is why we are using an if, we are ending it with a end if statement. On the structured English. Okay, so it does not have, we should remember that when we start a loop, we should end that loop. That is why we are using an if, we are ending it with a end if statement. On the structured English. Okay, so it does not have, we should remember that when we start a loop, we should end that loop. That is why we are using an if, we are ending it with a end if statement. Anyone not clear? Many people are facing issues with the net today. Yes, please reply like in the chat also if you are not clear with anything in the structured English part. See, basically it's a else if statement only if you check properly. Farzis? Yes, Farzis, are you clear? Have confusion? Please tell me. The
Ma'am,
structure.
no confusion.
Someone is saying
Ma'am, can you repeat it again? The
structured English.
structured English.
Okay, okay. See,
Yes, ma'am.
yes, okay. In the structured English part, like we will have to use the if statement. It basically does not have any syntax. So the last decision tree only we just take the example of this one only. This decision tree, what it had, like if the condition, if this condition is true, then it will give 5% discount. If not, then it will move to the condition 2. If this condition is true, then it will go for checking the third condition. And if this condition is true, then it will give them 5% discount, or else it will give no discount. Similarly, and if the like this condition is not so, if it is like this condition is not met, it will give no discount. So if we want to replace like write in the structured English, like I was using if, right? So that in similar way we'll be using it in the structured English too. That is if else statement. Okay, so if customer pays advance, then directly give 5% discount. If not, then we need to check for the condition 2. What was the condition? If purchase amount greater than equal to 10,000. Okay. If this condition is true, then we need to check one more condition, that if the customer is a regular customer. If it is a regular customer, then give him 5% discount. Else, no discount. Now you have started this if statement. You need to end, right? So you are ending it here. You are ending this if statement here. Now what about if purchase amount greater than equal to 10,000, then only we move to the third condition. But what if it was no? Then obviously it's no discount. And we close this if statement with this end if. And the last one, this entire thing, like we need to close it because we started this if, so we need to end the looping where? Here. So see, in normal C programming, what we do, we use a curly braces. But here we are using, you represent the blocks using the curly braces, right? But here we are representing using the end if statement. So that is the difference. Now clear?
Yes, clear, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am,
And the
বাকি
last,
লোৱাৰ কিবা কণ্ডিশ্যন
okay.
নাথাকে নেকি মেম?
কোনটো?
মেম আপুনি যে দিলে ইয়াতে মেম চব এডভান্স পে কৰাৰ আছে আৰু লগতে ডেইলি কাষ্টমাৰ হিচাপেও আছে আৰু লগতে যদি মেম বাকী লয় বা বাকী দিয়ে তেতিয়া একো কণ্ডিশ্যন নাথাকে নেকি?
সেইটো থাকিব পাৰে, কিন্তু এইটো আমি জাষ্ট এইটো হিচাপে লৈছো ন, জাষ্ট আমি এইটো যে এক্সাম্পলটো যেনেকে আছে তিনটা এক্সাম্পল আছে ন কণ্ডিশ্যনছ, according to that condition we have just evaluated the structured English. গম পালা? এতিয়া তোমাৰ মতে সেইটো যোনটো কেছ ষ্টাডিটো যোনটো দিয়া থাকিব, তুমি according to that case study only you have to follow. So for us this was the thing. Okay, next last is the pseudocode. So pseudocode is, yeah. So basically the pseudocode is like it does not conform to any program language. So it will be written in plain English. How you write the steps in the algorithms, that is how we can write. So only it will specify the only the physical programming logic without actual coding. So you don't have to mention the all the loops and everything. Not in normal English you write it. Okay, so it is basically used in conjunction with the structured English. So it replaces the flowcharts of a program. So if you have this like step by step method, or you draw the, like in that case if you write step 1, okay, we need to go for the first process, second process. In that case what happens, you can without doing this one also, without going, if you don't draw the flowchart also, your problem will be solved here because you have written the step by step procedure for it. Okay, normal English, this is the normal English, no logic is required. Okay, for creating the logic we go for this kind of structured English. So that is why we say that it works in hand. So this was all about the structured analysis. Okay, these are the all the information gathering tools are here, this one. So these were the all the information gathering tools. This is how we get the information, like the analyst helps to analyze the users. Okay, all the tools, how they do it. Okay, now you think like these are the part of the system designers. They analyze the thing and they draw this kind of diagram and give it to the, like basically they gave it to the coders and they will draw like code it, right? They will code it accordingly. Okay, so this was all about like I wanted to discuss today. In the next class we'll go for the behavioral modeling. I'll share the slide today. I know it's like a bit difficult one, so you may have problem understanding. Go through it and we'll discuss in the next class. Okay, so once you go through it, your confusions will be clear. Okay, let me take the attendance. Just wait. Okay, thank you everyone. So you all can leave.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.